Well, what is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to A Therapeutic Edge. I've got something on the table today from the nice folks at Asher Knives. But before we get to it, please subscribe. I would love to have you here on a regular basis. All right, let's get to this. So this is the Spiro, and this is actually a new generation of the Spiro. I have been buying and getting Asher Knives since the beginning. I've had 3 or 4 of them. This one is by far the most refined and, to me, the most interesting, and here's why. So the original version of the Spiro was a liner lock, and it was very well done. This one is a frame lock, and it is a frame lock in titanium. It is an S35VN blade, and action is so good on this knife. It is exceptionally comfortable. It is a very thin slice of S35VN, so even though it has a relatively large flat right here, it still comes down to a very slicey edge. There's a little cutting evidence there because I've been using it. It has a really lovely neutral and comfortable handle and just a great shape. This is a very nice knife. And the best part, by far, is that this knife costs $85. For S35VN, titanium, G10, ceramic bearings, come on. You just can't go wrong with this knife. You can't. This has become the knife that people say, hey man, I'm looking for a knife. I'd like something kind of nice. I don't have a lot of money, for instance. What do you recommend? I point them at one of these. And even if they have more money than this, I still point them at one of these because it is hard to beat this knife, even if you have more money to spend, without spending a lot more money. They've done a very good job here. It has very interesting thumb studs, right? Which are a little bit in the cutting path. I'm not that fussy about that, but that's okay. And they don't eat up a lot of it, but it is there. It is a steel pocket clip. And I thought that was interesting, but then I started thinking about $85 and realized that I'm cool with a stamped steel pocket clip. Frankly, as long as it keeps the price where it is, because that is just an unbeatable value, right? This is a great knife. Of course, it comes in a standard Asher Knives box, which is very nice as well, as you can see. That's what they look like. The knife itself, not a big knife. All right, we're coming in at 7 1/4 inches overall. You get just at 3 inches of cutting on a hair over 3 inches of S35VN. Grip length comes in at 3 3/4, or just shy of 3 3/4, which is why it is perfect, right, for my hand. Again, super comfortable. It is very lean. Excuse me, there we are. Very lean. The action is very good, and of course it pockets very well because of this nice deep carry pocket clip. Now, they aren't flush mounted screws, but they're very, very close. So there's nothing to hang up on when it comes into the pocket here. And because of the shape of this clip, it's got good ramp, good spring, and a ton of room back here. This thing fits even in my heaviest work pants, which, by the way, I have not been wearing a lot of because it's been 1,000 degrees here in Northern California. But I tried it out anyway, and it works just fine. It is, as I mentioned, a frame lock, and we are locked up at about 60%, 65%. But the lockup is totally firm, no blade rock, no nothing. I don't, generally speaking, do any corrections before I do my reviews. I get them out of the box and I carry them, and if blade rock develops, well, we'll talk about it. But there's nothing. This knife is put together very well. The G10 is rounded just a little bit. That's flat slab side on the titanium side here, but the G10 has just a little bit of shape to it, which makes it really nice to hold on to, right? It is very comfortable. This is a good knife. It really is. Asher Knives struggled in the beginning. First off, the company that they had actually machining and manufacturing their knives sold off a bunch of the design illegally, which happens in China from time to time. And so very similar knives to Asher Knives started showing up on Wish and various other places in the wrong materials, without the name, but there that was. Then they struggled a little bit. The company sold them stuff they said was S35VN, but it wasn't. They have rectified all of that. The persistence that Justin has put into his knife company dealing with all of those setbacks, dealing with them well, actually, and then coming forward with new and more advanced and more refined stuff like this is just exactly what I want to see. It pushes the big companies to be better. It shows other small makers that there is room out there for them in the market. And it brings those of us that just love knives, new and cool stuff at reasonable prices like this. I think that's just the coolest thing ever. Let's do some size comparisons. We're going to go ahead and line that up there. Here it is against the Mini Presidio 2. And as you can see, these knives, they share almost identical cutting edge, right? The Presidio 2 is a little bit longer in the handle. Of course, S35VN versus S30V. These knives are very comparable, except that Spiro is leaner for sure. It just is. It's a leaner knife in the pocket. They have very similar edge geometries, although the Spiro is a little thinner behind the edge. For our large size comparison today, we're going to go old school. Here it is against the Rat Model 1. And of course, the Rat Model 1 is a full-size knife coming in at, 8.5 inches. So it is considerably larger, but because of the way the Rat's designed, you don't really get that much more cutting edge. You just get a lot more handle. It's one of the reasons this is one of my favorite budget knives, but not really one of my favorite knives. At $85, this is really, I said I put this up on Instagram, and I said, if you can show me a knife that is a better value, you get more knife per dollar than this, I'll be impressed, because I can't find one. For $85, this is just as I said, this is my go-to for reasonably inexpensive knives for people these days. Now, I know $85 is not an insignificant amount of money, but in the knife world, it is. You get a lot of knife for the money. Now, you could get, if you get the D2 version of this, you could get a couple of these, basically, for one of these, but I'd rather have this, by far. I mentioned that it comes with thin blade stock, which allows it to be really slicey, so let's talk about that for a minute. Back here at the thickest point, which is not very thick, yeah, we are at, that can't be right. Hang on just a second. My calipers are acting up. All right. 2.32, yeah, my calipers are moving around, but 2.32 millimeters of blade. This is a very thin slice of S35VN. Doesn't mean it's weak, doesn't mean it's not strong. It just means that because it's got this large flat here, it still comes down to a very nice edge. The knife itself is 11 millimeters through the thickest point, which is just under half an inch. It has a reasonably tall blade, which of course again allows it to come down to a nice thin slicing edge. That means that we're just a little bit over an inch in the pocket. Let's line that up, take a look. Yeah, 1 1/8 inches this way. The closed length on this knife is 4 1/4. Yep. This really is a great knife. How great? Well, I have a list of my knives that if I'm going somewhere, for instance, if I'm going fishing or if I'm going hiking, and I'm really going to be out and I don't want to stress or worry about one of my expensive knives, I have a few knives that cost right at $100 or a little bit less that drop in my pocket all the time. This is now full-time one of those. You know what I mean? It's just, at this price, for these materials, I don't think I own anything that I'd rather carry. And that's saying something, because I have a lot of knives. Let's go ahead and weigh it. Oh, sorry, I bumped the camera. That's life, here in the fancy Therapeutic Edge Studios, which of course is my dining room table. Space is at a premium. All right, so where do we come in? 3.5 ounces. 3.5 ounces for 3.1 inches of cutting. Just 3. Yeah, About 3.1 inches of cutting is, to me, not an issue, particularly for titanium and G10. It is a reasonably light knife. It is well designed and well made. It is very comfortable in hand. And in the final analysis, that's where we're going to end this. The Asher Spiro tie, which is what this is, frame lock, is one hell of a pocket knife for not a lot of money. And I have it on good authority, don't hold me to this, but I believe it. There is a tie scale coming for this. So down the road shortly, you will be able to have this as a full tie Spiro. And I am really looking forward to that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. This has been the Asher Knives tie Spiro. I hope you've enjoyed this look at it. I know I have enjoyed having it. If you have any questions about this knife or any of my knives, feel free to ask down in the comments below. Until then, we'll see you next time.